Could Star Wars 9 have the longest runtime in the series? That seems to be the case, since the US American cinema chain AMC has updated its website a few days ago. The film is listed there with 155 minutes or 2 hours and 35 minutes, which would be a plus of about 3 minutes compared to its predecessor Star Wars 8. Although this is not yet officially confirmed, nevertheless we can assume that the information from AMC is reliable. Of course, it could be also the case that as in Star Wars 7 The Force Awakens, shortly before the cinema release some small changes are made, which of course would influence the runtime. But there are still a few weeks to go before the cinema release of Star Wars 9. Star Wars 9 The Rise of Skywalker will be released in US cinemas on December 20, 2019. So far, Ludacris, Tyrese Gibson and Ozuna are 3 musicians for the cast of Fast and Furious 9. Now, Vin Diesel surprised us with yet another new addition to the cast on his Instagram account. In a video, he explains that US rapper Cardi B will also appear on the 9th part. Unfortunately, this time he doesn't reveal which role is planned for her. He had done a similar thing with reggaeton musicer Ozuna, only that he immediately announced that he would play a younger version of the character Santos. Concerning Cardi B's role, Deadline only believes to have found out that it will definitely not be a big role, which isn't too surprising, as she's just celebrating her film debut with the film Hustlers alongside Jennifer Lopez, which will be released in November. Fast and Furious 9 will be released on 22nd of May 2020. Successful R-rated movies in mainstream cinema used to be the exception rather than the rule. Of course, this has changed in the meantime, however, only very few would have thought that director Todd Phillips would have such a big success with his Joker movie, which is very different to the usual superhero mainstream. As of Wednesday, the Joker earned about $740 million and will thus, sooner or later, certainly surpass the most successful R-rated film to date, which is Deadpool with $785 million. According to some estimates, Joker will then probably settle in the $900 million range, but the billion-dollar mark is probably unrealistic according to current forecasts. The Joker has been running in US cinemas since the 4th of October 2019. A few weeks ago, Martin Scorsese started a real outrage with his criticism of the Marvel movies when he compared them to theme parks. Shortly afterwards, his colleague Francis Ford Coppola joined the criticism and topped the whole thing off with his statement that the MCU movies were even horrible. Afterwards, James Gunn and Disney boss Bob Iger countered, and you might think the whole thing was done. Now, surprisingly, actor Benedict Cumberbatch also joined the discussion and took rather the side of Scorsese and co. In a radio show with Jenny McCarthy, he says that he knows that there has been some discussions lately, after these great filmmakers have said that the franchises are taking over, and that he has to agree with that they don't want a king who rules everything, so there's a kind of monopoly. They should really make sure that they promote author films in every possible way. But before his statement is interpreted too much, the Sherlock Holmes actor adds that of course he doesn't mean that there shouldn't be any more film franchises like the MCU, but that expensive mainstream films and less well-known films should ideally coexist in the cinema. He himself is the best example for this, because if you look at his roles for the past years, you will notice that he can be seen in movies like Avengers Endgame and Thor 3, as well as in more unknown movies like Brexit, The Uncivil War and The Child in Time. Soon, the history film Edison, The Wizard of Light will also be released, where he will be shown alongside Tom Holland. With Avengers Endgame it worked out quite well. Sony's Spider-Man Far From Home tried it out successfully, and now Once Upon a Time in Hollywood will be following. We're talking about the concept of bringing a well-running film to the cinema, waiting until the viewer numbers drop again, and finally bringing it to the screen again with extra scenes to boost the viewer numbers again. Quentin Tarantino is now following exactly this strategy with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because since last Friday the film has been shown again in the US with 4 additional scenes. This shouldn't come as a surprise to the well-informed film fan. First of all, because it was already announced at the Cannes Film Festival that the film would be extended by a few more scenes. The first edited version is supposed to have been several hours longer than the final cinema version, so there is already enough material. Especially since Tarantino also thinks about releasing a mini-series from the existing material in a few years. Secondly, since the US release, the film has been shown in Tarantino's own cinema, The New Beverly, in the extended version. By the way, the added movie scenes are supposed to be taken mainly from the fictive TV series Bounty Law, in which Leonardo DiCaprio's character Rick Dalton plays the leading role. In Game of Thrones, Joseph Mawle played the role of Benjen Stark, the first Ranger of the Night's Watch and uncle of Jon, Robb, Arya and co. As has now been reported, he is said to have been engaged for the upcoming Lord of the Rings series and to no longer be on the side of the good guys as in Game of Thrones, but on the bad side. So he joins the still rather unspectacular cast next to actor Will Poulter, who is supposed to play the central hero Beldor, and Hollywood newcomer Markella Kavenagh, who will play the character Tyra. Mawle is not the only one who is coming from Game of Thrones to Lord of the Rings, as the two producers Bryan Cogman and Brice Richmond have also transferred from Westeros to Middle-earth. Further announcements will surely follow soon, but until the release in 2021 we will have to wait a little longer.